Okay, thanks for watching. Today's just going to be pretty basic, keep it simple video. It's pretty basic spring beekeeping that I'm up to right now, so I thought I'd just take the camera out and show everyone kind of what I'm doing each step of the way. I've got a few plans for this yard, and yeah, without much intro, let's just get right into it. Okay, so I thought actually the point of this video could be the importance of beekeeping with a plan. So whenever I go out to a bee yard, obviously there's certain jobs that need to be done, and I try and keep it as simple as possible, as in pick a few things that really are required and get through as many bees, as many hives as possible. So some of the jobs that I have to get done today, or that I plan on getting done, is first of all, unwrap my bees. So it's the very end of April right now, and I typically use May 1st as sort of a rough guideline is when I'm going to unwrap my colonies. So that's one of the jobs that I'm doing today. Every colony in this yard is going to get their winter wraps and top insulation taken off. That's probably the main job. Okay, the other main job that I want to take care of today, which maybe seems like a big task, is to find and identify every queen in this yard. So that's not a task that everyone really has to do, but I have one main reason for doing that this time around. There's a lot of queens in this yard that are going to be on their 4th season now, and so my intention is to I make sure I have a rough idea of which colonies contain queens that way, but since I mark all my queens, I'm going to dig in right now and just double check and verify in case something happened late last summer in terms of a supersedure. I actually know there are a few queens in here that I replaced with cells late last summer, and I may not have had a chance to mark them yellow, which would have been last year's color, which is what I'll be doing now. If you've watched my videos before, you know this is something that I do regularly, so I just thought I'd show you again. Right away in this colony, I found a queen that was unmarked, so I'm going to mark her just like that, the yellow dot. So I know that this colony in particular is one that I did requeen with a cell late last year, and I didn't get a chance to mark that queen right there. So there she is now marked, and that's good. So this is a 2017 queen here in 2018. So she's going to stay in this hive all year long now. Okay, I thought I'd address this because I'm sure it's going to come up. People who've watched my videos in the past know that I prefer to manage single brood chamber hives, but obviously this one is a double. So the reason for that is I actually did have a dead colony in this yard. It would have been in this space right beside me here. So what I've done with this colony in particular was, because there was a dead hive here, first I tried to diagnose exactly why that colony died. And then if it wasn't from some, contagious disease, I can sort of clean up the frames a little bit and add them to a really strong hive, which was this one right beside it. So I decided to just take the dead colony, and I think I put the dead brood chamber on the bottom, and the bees will sort of clean that up and start using that space. And then I'll just split them into 2 singles a little bit later on in the season. So this colony, I'm just getting into the brood here now, and I can see by the mark on this queen right here that I've got an older queen. I'm actually just going to leave her alone, and I can see, so I can see just what's going on here. I'll just check one more frame because I want to see how much brood is on the one here beside it. Okay, yeah, so there's a couple frames with a decent amount of capped brood on them now. This is also, you know, every chance you get to inspect capped brood, all the brood in your colony, I think you should take it. Any chance you get to identify problems like disease, you should take. So that's what I'm doing now, but that looks just fine. And I'm going to close it up. Okay, so as I get into this third colony here, they're a little bit weaker for sure. But I've actually got a white queen here. So this queen is from 2016. She was raised and mated in 2016. Went through last year, and now this will be coming into her third season now. I'll just show you her on this other camera. Right there, she's marked white. That's a 2016 queen. You know, not very impressed with the way this colony went through the winter. There's really only like 4 frames of bees in here right now. So it's not like I intend for this queen to be a breeder or anything like that, but I'll probably just, you know, see how they progress through this spring. I may or may not requeen this colony. I guess I haven't really decided. So one more thing I should probably mention here is my use of pollen patties. There's just a tiny little piece of a pollen patty left on this colony. It's right there. But you probably saw on the last hive that that there was pretty significant pieces of pollen patty left on that one. So I just wanted to clarify my thoughts on pollen patties. For sort of hobby beekeepers that aren't doing anything really stressful or demanding with their bees, I really never recommend using pollen patties to anyone. At least this totally, I guess, depends on where you're keeping your bees. But here in southern Ontario, generally we get quite a lot of pollen coming into our colonies early in the year, much earlier than we really get any nectar. And pollen's rarely a limiting factor for just managing bees in a pretty standard way. Where I think pollen patties are really useful and sort of a requirement really is when you're putting your bees in stressful situations like migratory pollination, especially for certain crops. So a lot of beekeepers here in Canada, in eastern Canada, we move colonies into blueberries, and blueberries are not a great nutritional source for bees in the first place, and then the act of moving them can be really stressful, and all that can be limiting on their brood production. So adding a pollen substitute for a extra protein source is pretty much essential when you're doing something like that. But if your hives are just sitting here and you hope to produce some honey, there's not a lot of real reason to add a pollen substitute early in the spring. I did it in probably half of my yards this year because my intention is to, I raise a lot of queens, I make nukes, I make splits to keep increasing my own colony numbers. And so my intention was to get, more brood into colonies earlier so that I can, use that brood for splits and things like that. But if you don't have those intentions with your bees, then I wouldn't be feeding pollen substitute. Okay, so as I get through some more colonies here, I just wanted to mention again my main point of making this video, which was beekeeping with a plan, right? So I came into this yard with the plan of unwrapping colonies, finding my queens, and that allows me to stay focused on what I need to do and work efficiently through as many colonies in a day as possible. So I just take off the wrap, dig in, find the queen, make a note of that, get an idea of how much brood is in the colonies, and then close it right back up. I don't need to waste time inspecting all sorts of other things, just accomplish my goals for the day. But then I'm also generally talking about planning for the rest of the year. So making a note of how old each queen is in each colony allows me to plan the rest of the season. Which colonies do I need to requeen? Which colonies may contain, potential breeders, and work out my schedule for the season that way. And then things like getting an idea of how much brood is in each colony lets me plan, where I can be making splits from earlier. Every yard is going to be a little bit different. So this yard looks really good. There's a lot of colonies like this, wall-to-wall bees and good frames of brood. So I know that I can plan to make splits or pull nukes out of a yard like this sooner than probably some of my other yards. So yeah, it's planning ahead for the rest of the season and what I need to accomplish on what sort of time scale. So that's what I mean by beekeeping with a plan. Okay, so that's it. That's that job done. Now I'm just going to pack up and get out of here. There was one more thing I was thinking of. Speaking of planning, I actually planned on making this video yesterday, and I made it to right about here. And I was stuck for a little while, so I ended up wasting a bunch of time. So this is what we don't exactly plan for, but we have to deal with when spring beekeeping sometimes. Anyway, thanks a bunch for watching. I've got another video planned to make right away, so stay tuned, and yeah, hopefully you have a great spring.